Welcome to Week in Review. It's an honor to be able to serve you, and we are just days, and I mean what, days, before the crucial midterm elections. I'm asking you, stay with me. I'm going to be a little bit more methodical, but I've got to be very accurate because we are going to look today at really the opportunity to be part of a radical, righteous revolution. And I want to invite you to join with me and millions that are saying it's time. Who knows if you've come into the kingdom for a time such as this? Mordecai said those words to Esther. She saved a nation. And I want you to be with me. We can see this nation saved from the direction it's been going. You know, years ago, I was in Amsterdam, and I'll never forget this moment. But there was a man of God, God's smuggler, Brother Andrew. He just died recently at 94. Well, that was his home. And we met with him, a bunch of us students, and somebody said, if you could do it all over again. And I mean, this guy risked his life to save people by giving Bibles out in communist countries. What would you do differently? You know what he said? He said, I'd do one thing. I would be more radical. I never forgot that. And you know what? God's calling us to be radical, to get to the root. That's what that word means. And we've got to be honest about the gravity, the severity of where our nation is at. I'd like to read to you something that Dr. James Dobson, now he's one of the icons, he's one of the heroes, the patriarchs in Christianity. For almost 50 years, Dr. Dobson has served us. And he made a statement recently. Let me read it to you. Here's what he said. I love this. He said, I consider this to be one of the most important votes in American history. It may be our last opportunity to restore a balance of power to the three branches of government in time to save us from tyranny and moral collapse. Those are sobering words. But you know what? When you realize something is serious, you will act with urgency. The other day I was in a hotel and all of a sudden there was a siren that went off, and the managers, they said, get out, a tornado's headed. And we all ran into a sheltered room. We acted with urgency because there was imminent danger. Do you know that I remember once being in a hotel across the street from Disneyland. I was speaking out there at a place called Melodyland. And I remember I was getting ready for bed. It was 11 o'clock. I'm in my PJs, and all of a sudden there was a banging at the door and alarms were going off. And I came to the door. I said, what? And they said, get out. Bomb scare. I opened the door and it was amazing. Everybody in PJs and nightgowns were out in the parking lot. Now, it turned out to be a false alarm, but we acted with urgency. Do you know that the United States, because of certain threatening statements from Putin, is now purchasing certain medicines? And why? Because we're concerned about radioactivity. If that happens, if there is some type of nuclear attack, we've got to be ready. We can't wait. You know, like when you get medicine, if you're just having a supplement, vitamin C or something like that, you don't need much in terms of instructions, whatever. But boy, if you're taking a prescription drug and there is, certain dangers involved with it, you get pages of information to caution you. Now, I want you to please stay with me. And I want to, first of all, I want to just read some things. And I'm doing the reading more in a methodical way because this is something I ask you to post and pass along. Let's take a look at this. Let's survey the situation. Here is the situation in America today. Ready? 2 years ago, we had a robust economy and inflation was non-existent. We had low unemployment, acceptable gas prices, our border was basically secure, wages were rising, especially for minorities, mortgage rates were low, global leaders and adversaries respected us. We enjoyed energy independence for the first time in 70 years. Our military was being rebuilt. Schools were not enmeshed in indoctrination, sexualization of children in any major way. Leaders in the administration were competent problem solvers. Conservative constitutionalists were being placed on the Supreme Court and in judgeships across America, and protections for the unborn were moving forward along with the anticipated reversal of Roe v. Wade. There was no recession or supply shortages. Taliban and ISIS were defeated. And finally, The scourge of COVID was coming under control alongside a responsible plan for withdrawal from Afghanistan with honor, removal of $80 billion of our military equipment while retaining our base of operations. Hey, far left opposition was nonstop and vicious from the radicalized Democrat Party and their allies in the dishonest media, Hollywood, and liberal academia. Those who were denied, those who denied we were in a cultural civil war began acknowledging traditional conservatives had stirred up a hornet's nest. Today, we face the brutal reality of recession, a teetering stock market, worst inflation in 40 years, and the highest gas prices in history, sky-high mortgage interest rates, explosive violent crime in cities, unprecedented border chaos, and the accompanying fentanyl deadly epidemic, CRT and radical LGBTQ indoctrination in schools, businesses, and military, corruption in the media, Department of Justice and FBI, quote, woke and climate crisis ideology that is undermining freedoms and justifying out-of-control spending, fueling inflation, transgender mutilation, abortion until birth, marijuana legalization, and student loan absolution, massive government giveaways, and phones, food, welcoming, medical care, transportation for illegals who are simply walking into our country. And we have an individual that's an almost 80-year-old accidental president who is what? He called out a dead congresswoman in the audience as he regularly bumbles through, I'm not being unkind, I'm just telling the facts here, prepared propaganda on the teleprompter. Now, I want you to look with me. Give me your eye contact. I love you. I love our children, our grandchildren, but we are on the precipice. We are in a perilous time, and we have the opportunity. Right now, we see what? In Congress, you can see it's a 50-50 in the Senate, but hey, because there's a Democrat that is in the, vice presidency, any tie, she'll make the call. So the Senate is in the opposition party hands. Same thing with the House. They have the majority and in the White House, but it can turn around. And you may remember when Jimmy Carter was in office as president, man, it was a disaster. We had 18%, if you recall this, mortgage rates. How would you like to hit that place? How would you like to have 14% inflation? We're headed that way. You say, Larry, we got to turn it around. All right. Well, I want you to listen with me. I'm going to tell you very carefully. Here are 6 areas. And here are really where the parties stand. You vote according to a biblical worldview. Here they are. Ready? Follow with me. Number 1 area is this, and this is very clear. And I tell you, this is so clear. Religious freedom. Democrat policies show anti-religious liberty. They reject the previous administration's use of broad religious exemptions as discrimination to their LGBTQ, BLM, and GND. That's the Green New Deal agendas. Republican policies show pro-religious liberty. Religious freedom is a sacred right afforded to all men and women, and the United States has a duty to defend it. Second area, let's compare. Sanctity of life. Democrat policy, this is objective, supports abortion at any time, anywhere, for any reason, up until the moment of delivery at taxpayers' expense. The Republican platform asserts the sanctity of human life and affirms that the unborn child has a fundamental right to life which cannot be infringed. Number 3, marriage. The Democrat Party affirms homosexual and lesbian, quote, marriage and is commissioned to codify same-sex unions into federal law and require all states to validate them and penalize any groups failing to support them. And that includes churches, folks, ministries, schools, and business. The Republican Party supports traditional marriage and recognizes marriage as what? The union of one man and one woman, and actively promotes married family life as the basis of a stable and prosperous society. Number 4, transgenderism. Democrat House members introduced the, quote, Transgender Bill of Rights, which would what? it would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to include any gender identity and force all churches, schools, and child care facilities to hire LGBTQ staff or to be fined and lose tax exemptions. It will expand access to bathrooms, locker rooms, and gender transition services for minors, along with banning all so-called conversion therapy. The Republican platform objectively recognizes common sense biological gender. Bible says he created them male and female. How about number 5? Border security. The Democrat Party comprehensive immigration reform is an open border policy welcoming all foreigners identifying as asylum seekers wanting to gain placement, medical care, food, education, residencies, cell phones, and other available entitlements. The return to Mexico policy was terminated in 2022 by the Biden administration. The Republican platform continues to uphold America's long-standing immigration laws to what? To ensure our national security and an orderly and fair path to citizenship. Completion of the proposed wall and strengthening ICE, that's the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, remain a top priority for national security. And lastly, education and parental rights. The Democrat Party supports the LGBTQ agenda in schools and opposes, quote, discrimination towards transgenders in sports, bathrooms, locker rooms, and education. Biden said, quote, when children are at school, they're not somebody else's children. They're like yours when they're in the classroom. Jill Biden stated, hey, no books should be banned in schools. What? Is that pornography? Wait a minute. The Republican platform affirms parents are a child's first and foremost educators and have primary responsibility for the education of their children. Parents have a right to direct their children's education, care, and upbringing. The GOP categorically rejects the Democrat-driven label of domestic terrorists for parents. Folks, here's the deal. Now, I know that was a discipline to read along, but this is not something you can just say, hey, let's issue a few tweets. The Bible says when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people groan. You step back, look at these platforms, look at the policies, and plus look at the damage that has been done to our nation in less than 2 years. I'm asking you, pray. I'm asking you to confess sin, anything that would stand in the way. And then I'm asking you, engage. Render to Caesar that which is Caesar. We're the salt of the earth. We're the light of the world. And it's our opportunity. It's turnaround time. Be a part of the radical righteous revolution.